Years ago, I was told by every cruise line that I asked that there would be no chance of a ship home porting out of Dublin. Not even a mini season, where the difference between the home port and a port of call is that the ship starts here. All the people that board fly into Dublin Airport and join the sailing here, and then they come back and they get off and the next group get in. It's a big deal to have a ship home porting. They tend to gravitate towards the same 5 or 6 ports all over Western Europe, and it's a big deal for Dublin to get a big ship, which the celebrity ships are. Silhouette, I think, is home porting this year, and you can talk us through that, Michael. It's a big deal to get a ship home porting in Ireland. What have you seen? What sort of reaction have you seen to this initiative?
Yes, well, first of all, good afternoon, everybody. I guess the opportunity has arisen for Celebrity Cruises to come into Dublin, really was driven by expanding. You know, the whole industry is growing. There is more people taking cruise holidays for the very first time, and we've obviously been involved obviously as part of the Royal Caribbean Cruise Line family in the Irish market for, I think, every year. I've been here for 26 years in my career of working in the market, and the opportunity has arisen. Now, the first surprise which we had, so we have 5 cruises as you've outlined, is the demand has been incredible. But the demand has also been incredible out of North America. So there's a lot of people flying in from the US and Canada into Dublin, spending time in Dublin, and then embarking on the ship and cruising.
Good news for Irish tourism. What proportion?
Yeah, I'll actually probably put a plug. We should get an award from the Irish Tourist Board. I think we've got many people coming into. What
proportion? What percentage?
In terms of overall mix of people on board the ship, of US versus sort of UK and Irish, will be about 70% mix of guests on board the ship.
So it's 70% have flown in.
Quite a lot bigger mix than what we have, and I think the one thing which we've learned through it all is that because it's something new, the demand has been incredible, and I think we're sitting here today going on a load factor of the ship not far off already being filled for 5 sailings in 2018. We've already gone on sale for 2019, and we're putting a slightly bigger ship into Dublin in 2019, and working with the Port Authority, which have been very collaborative to us, to make sure the facilities are there is exactly the same as what there would be in many other ports. Okay. So we are delighted with the response that we've had, and even today people asking about what's happening with it. So
you're back for 5 next year.
Back for 5 next year, and who knows what will happen after that. The demand is there. Yeah.
Rebecca, big award last night, new ship on its way. MSC is growing and thriving in the Irish market.
Yeah, we are, and it's actually our 10th year this year that we've come into the Irish market. So for me, it's phenomenal what happened last night. It's really, really exciting times. We've grown so much in the Irish market. The reason being that we started when we came in with a very low price proposition, and then within a couple of years' time we offered a fantastic all-inclusive product which the Irish market absolutely love. So then we started to realise that the value in the ships that we were building and the ships that we had then to the ships that we had now, we had some price increases, but that hasn't dropped off the passengers, and the Irish clients just really, really like, because it's European style. And how I say to people is, if you want to sit in have a cappuccino in a city like Rome, Paris, and just watch the world go by, that's an MSC ship on the water, and just the price point, and as I said, the all-inclusive on board has just made it grown for the Irish market for us.
I better add that we have 3 prize winners here on this shared couch, because there was a luxury, a premium and an ultra luxury prize last night as well. So Michael personally, not this cruise line, no, the celebrity won the premium, and the luxury cruise line, the ultra cruise line award, went to SilverSea. Tell me about high-end cruising, Amanda. This is do you pay a lot more for a cruise on the SilverSea, and what do you get for your money?
We know we're the best, Alan. We would be classed as the ultra luxury market. When you get on board, everything is paid for. So all your fine wines, of which we have 450 house wines, all your champagnes, your spirits, and more importantly, your gratuities. I often say it's not what you pay to get on the ship, it's what what you pay to get off. So yes, our prices are a little bit higher than the mainstream, but we do offer a really higher class of service as well. We have 9 ships now, and we've got expedition ships as well, which have become really, really popular, particularly in the Irish market. So I'm finding that a lot of you want to be adventurers now, so we've got Antarctica, Galapagos doing really well as well.
Great. And Jennifer, Rhapsody of the Seas. These ships are very, very big. How many passengers?
The biggest cruise ships we have are the Oasis class ships, biggest cruise ships in the world. We've got Symphony of the Seas joining the fleet of 25 ships in springtime in the next few months. It's going to be home ported in Barcelona for the summer, doing the Western Mediterranean. So doing like Palma de Mallorca, Naples, Rome. And then at the end of the season it's going down to Miami. So we're very excited to have our 4th Oasis class ship sailing out of Barcelona for the summer.
And Barcelona is the port of choice for Irish passengers, really, is it?
Yes, absolutely. I think it's true. A lot of Irish passengers like to get to the sunshine, so flying to Rome and Venice and Barcelona first and then boarding one of our ships there. So Barcelona is a big port for quite a few of us sitting here actually. We use Barcelona quite a lot. Easy to get to. There's great airlift with Aer Lingus between here and here in Barcelona, and lots of choice as well, and good prices.
Alan, cruise and the Irish customer, what changes are you seeing? What trends are you noticing in 2018?
Well, first of all, can I just say to the award-winning couch over there, all 3 of you in the one place, was that done on purpose? We were nominated, by the way, and so was Jennifer. The changes in the Irish market, what we've seen over the last couple of years is that, as Mike alluded to there, is that a lot of the departures out of Ireland now, with 5 departures with Celebrity. There's also departures with Cruise and Maritime this year as well.
I think 11 departures altogether.
Yeah, 11 departures altogether this year for 2018, but next year what you're going to see is that Princess Cruises are also going to come in, and they've also got 11 departures as well. We run a website called cruisefromireland.ie, and all of those are listed on that, both today's sailings or cruises and next year's as well. So there's a lot of changes out there, a lot of competition.
New to cruise, are there a lot of people taking cruises 2018 that never had before, Alan?
Question for me, yeah, absolutely. It's one of the things with having the departures out of Ireland is that it's really a good starting ground for them. There's only so many sailings or places you can cruise to from Ireland. Generally the Norwegian fjords, Iceland, or possibly one way down to the Mediterranean. So that really gives people a good feel for what to expect, and it brings them down further into the likes of for the rest of the itineraries that everybody offers.
And Barcelona are quivering in their shoes because Killybegs is going to be a major cruise port.
We had a departure from Killybegs this year with Fred Olsen out to Canada and back, so that's a 14-night cruise. This is the 3rd year we've run it, and this year we've only got one cruise out of Killybegs, but last year we had 2, and the year before that was there was 1 as well. But it sells all the time. It's a really, really popular sailing. Now, not all cabins on board are for Irish people, as Michael was saying earlier on. It's because of the uplift traffic coming in from the States and that, the airlift from the States. It's a huge opportunity.
That is the future, really.
Yeah.
It's 15 minutes from the airport to the port through the tunnel. And
yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
you get people in. I have to, while I'm talking about the award winning, by the way, Jennifer's Royal Caribbean won the Cruise Line of the Year award 7 years in a row. So it was sort of like Kilkenny hurlers or Dublin footballers. So we have to pass the retrospective congratulations there as well. Rebecca, the Irish market, was there a tipping point? Was there a point where there was cruises were seen as expensive, as elitist? The Christy Moore song, where An Ordinary Man, where he's taking people on a cruise was something unimaginable. Was there a tipping point? Did we reach a point where cruises became accessible to Irish people?
Yeah, I think, as I said, we're 10 years now, and before that then, a lot of people thought it was really, really expensive to cruise, and then a lot more companies came into the Irish market, so therefore what that meant was that we had to look at our prices and see what we could do, and that's where it came. I would say about 10 years ago that happened. But also what we've seen, due to demand in beds and different places, things that have happened throughout the world. We've seen that the package holiday has increased quite a lot, so there's a huge difference now. We're saying to people and saying to our travel partners like Alan Lynch, we say to them, guys, when your someone comes in and says, I think I want to go down to Spain for an all-inclusive in a 5-star hotel for the week, price a cruise against that, and what they're actually getting is, it's a floating hotel. They're getting so many different destinations, they're getting their all-inclusive options, they're getting all the meals options as well included in that. So where we see the package holiday fall away, and then they had to struggle with schedule airlines and stuff like that to try and repackage, that's when the cruise business started to come in.
Okay, Michael's coming in there.
Yeah. Thank you. I think generally people in holiday mode, people are looking for experiences now. Long gone is the day that people just flew to a destination and what we used to call fly and flop. They go into a hotel, they flop on the sun lounge and they stay there for 10 days. Now people want experiences, and I think the cruise industry has done probably better than anything else in actually giving people multiple destinations. And I think probably the best example of it, one of the biggest growth areas for a lot of the cruise industry is Asia. And when you think of going on holiday to Asia, the ship acts as quite often, the acts as a hotel. And if you go to Hong Kong, the cruise terminal in Hong Kong is right in the center of Hong Kong, as you know. It's
so it's like the city centre hotel.
Exactly.
And you unpack once and you've got 6 cities.
And then you go down through Vietnam, you have 3 or 4 different ports of call in Vietnam. You probably head into Thailand, to Bangkok. The small ships will get right up into Bangkok. The bigger ships are down in Pattaya. And then you would then come down through Malaysia, and all of a sudden you've had a 2-week tour of Asia without the hassle of unpacking and unpacking, and had great quality. You've had hygiene, it's none whatsoever, safe environment, and I think that's what people are. So I think soft adventure is really becoming what people want, and the cruise industry does it better than any other quality, I think, of hotel. And the wonderful thing which we've all got is we can move our ships depending on the demand. So if there is demand for the Caribbean, we can move our ships to the Caribbean. If there is demand for Asia, we'll move our ships to Asia, etc.
Michael's talking about Asia, Jennifer. Without asking for trade secrets, where are the most popular itineraries out of Ireland? Does it tend to be Western Mediterranean?
I think most first cruisers, and I'm sure everyone would agree here, most people start in the Mediterranean, and they'll do the Med because they want to see the main the Greek islands and out of Barcelona. And then we've obviously got like all the other cruise companies. Scandinavian Russia is very, very popular, and then they might get a little bit more adventurous, maybe down to the Caribbean and all those lovely islands. And then I think Alaska is very, very popular as well. Alaska and going to Canada and New England. But Asia, as Michael said, is a growing market for all of us. And a lot of us have ships in those areas now. And I think what Michael said is very accurate to say it's really like a floating hotel. And how many places can you go to on holiday that you could visit 3 or 4 countries in the space of a week, and visit all these destinations, unpack just once. And we will bring you to all the destinations, and you can wake up in a different country every morning. That's why cruising is growing. So
I'll be calling for questions from the floor. So we have spotters, put your hands up. Jennifer, I saw prices in the Caribbean, which were much the same as the Med. How does that work? How can it be cheaper to go and cruise in the Caribbean than
it's true, actually. First of all, the Americans are travelling a lot this year, so Europe is selling very, very quickly, filling up. Our ships are quite full already for the summer in the Med. I think we're very fortunate in Ireland that we have such amazing uplift of transatlantic airlines. So not just Aer Lingus, but all the American carriers here, and there's a lot of competition on the transatlantic.
And we've direct to Miami.
So absolutely. So Aer Lingus have all these direct routes, so we've got huge uplift. And I don't even know, you can probably tell me on how many flights there are transatlantic per day. It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Too many, isn't it? 20?
30 a day
30
in the summer of 2018. It'll be 32.
Yeah.
It's quite
Which
phenomenal.
Is unbelievable. And I think for us, we can go through so many different hubs. We can go over to the UK through that way, or we can go to the States. So it's made the Caribbean very, very affordable for people, which is fantastic for all of us.
Alan, with a little bit of an overview of what do people get caught out with price-wise? Shore excursions can be quite expensive. You know, I know what Rebecca says is true. You've paid, everything's covered, but there are little surprises that people get caught out with at the end of the day. And the personal bugbear of mine is the compulsory daily tip, which the gratuity, which they three of the cruise lines have already raised by $1 each. I think they run around $14-15 per person per day. So it actually, when you calculate your price in advance, there's always there can be little surprises. What would you say to consumers to watch out for?
Okay, well, what I think mainly is that if you are going on a cruise, it's more a tip rather than looking out for surprises. Is that if you can pay for something like all-inclusive drinks packages, that type of thing before you go, because if you want to buy them on board, of course they're going to be available, but you're also hit with a service charge. Not in all cases, but in most cases you are, and that can be up to between 15 and 18% on top of
15 to 18%.
Yeah, you don't actually pay that if you book it in advance. Right. So if you book it before you travel, you don't have to pay that service charge. That'd be one of my biggest tips on that. So there are destinations where you must take excursions like St. Petersburg, or because the visa is generally thrown in with it.
It's the only way of getting into Russia without a visa in advance is to going off a cruise ship.
Not necessarily, but that's a different subject. But
no, just a general thing. You can get into St. Petersburg without having been to the embassy.
That's right. So
general information.
So that would be one of the excursions that you would need to book for example.
Rebecca wants to come in.
Just the biggest tip that I could give anyone when they want to book a cruise: book with a travel agent, guys, because these guys have the knowledge, they have all the information, they have everything. And your local travel agent, you just go into them and they'll be able to put you, because cruising, there's 5 of us here and there's some more outside. Just a cruise for everybody, and the worst thing in the world is for you to be put on the wrong cruise. So you need to trust the information they get. We're training these guys constantly, they're training themselves. You need to go into your travel agent and they'll give you the right cruise. But also there's some cruise lines that include excursions as well. You guys, Amanda, include?
Come on in, Amanda.
Yes, on certain destinations we do include shore excursions, and on all the expedition ones as well.
And just I think to what Rebecca's saying about, everybody's heard of TripAdvisor. There is the cruise equivalent as well called Cruise Critic, and if you want to have a very much non-biased and listen or read what fellow people have read or sailed upon, that's a very good reference. But to Rebecca's point, the travel agent is knowledgeable, and the most important thing to every single cruise line, the last thing which any of us want is the wrong customer on the wrong ship, because you come back and you say, we won't have a cruise again. We want you to come back and go, that was the best holiday in the world. We know we've got, as an industry, probably the best holidays to offer people. Our challenge is it's probably the best kept secret as well.
Jennifer?
The only point I was going to say is that also, as well as booking with your travel agent, it's very important, I think, to book a fly cruise as well. So you book your flights with whichever cruise line you choose, because then we become the principal. So if anything happens with your flight, if it goes technical or there's weather, we're responsible for looking after you. So if you book it as a package, it's a much better option for anyone in the audience here. So it's the only point I'd just like to make on that.
Amanda, everything is included. Is alcoholic drink included in your SilverSea booking?
Yes, it would be. All your wines, your champagnes, cocktails, afternoon teas, specialty teas.
And shore excursions?
Shore excursions are chargeable on certain itineraries, and they're complimentary on other itineraries. So we do have promotions on all the time, so just come and ask or speak to one of your travel agents. One of the big things that's been mentioned that really is important is the gratuities. The gratuities are all included, so I think that puts people's mind at rest. One of the nice things is when you go to the bar, it's really friendly on board, you meet some really nice people, but after you've had your drink, nobody's running after you with a tab to sign for, so you don't sign for your tabs or anything, so it does make a difference.
Rebecca, the drinks package in MSC is still as popular as ever?
I think there's a couple of you in the room here actually that I know it's very popular for, but I won't call them out because they'll give me a smack when I go back to my stand. But yeah, no, it really is, because it has absolutely everything included. It's your tea, coffees, ice creams, your waters, and then it goes on to your beers, your cocktails, your spirits, absolutely everything. And as I said this I think last year and the year before, it costs €182 for the all-inclusive, and I've had for a week, yeah. And I've had people come back, and what they did was they calculated the amount of drinks that they drank throughout the whole thing. And I had one couple who drank €800 worth of drink on the cruise. They are in the room. No, they're not. I'm only messing.
And is it 182 for the couple, or 182 per person?
182 per person.
So they save €500. Yeah.
No, 182 per person, so like 300 and odd euros, and but they'd saved 500 and odd. Yeah.
So leveraging, Michael, are drinks included?
Yes, they are. And I think, you can hear from all of the cruise lines, everything's included. And I think, again, if people have not taken a cruise before, the value of what you get from a cruise is quite incredible. The culinary side of it, the entertainment, the activities, the destination, the drinks are included. It's just really listening to what the consumer wants, and the cruise lines do react to it. And a level of service which is, I believe, is second to none.
And how do the premium restaurants work? Do you have different levels, price plans for premium? You get your food covered, but then there's always a special restaurant on board. I think you guys were looking for Michelin star status for one of your restaurants, where you charge extra for one of those. Is that how it works?
I think when it comes to culinary side of it, people don't want full food really. There is enough options to desire anybody's desire for 4 breakfasts, 3 lunches, 6 dinners, afternoon tea and everything else. So food is something, but a lot of the cruise lines spend, of the cruise fare you spend, a lot of that money gets invested into culinary. And it's certainly something which the value which we do spend is considerable, of going into the proteins, whether that's the seafood, the steak, the fillet steak, etc., and from there. However, there is a number of specialty restaurants as well. Certain cruise lines include them in the cost, other cruise lines don't. We're one of the cruise lines which don't include it in. But you can pay anything for a specialty restaurant of $45, so for 2 people, $90. But the dining experience you will have in there would be the equivalent of dining in probably a 2-star Michelin star restaurant, which you would probably spend €500 including wine as well. Yeah. So value for money, the cruise does offer exception good. Yes, you've got to pay more, and certain people go, you know what, I don't want to pay any more for that. You don't have to, but it's just maybe as if it's an anniversary. And I mean, you have dined in some of them and had great food, and you think, okay, it's a special occasion, it's a honeymoon, it's a wedding anniversary.
It helps you manage the numbers.
Exactly.
All your cruise customers couldn't dine. Jennifer, drinks package, how much does it cost? And tell me about the speciality on Royal.
We do promotions throughout the year. The current promotion, we started just before Christmas up until the 5th of March. And it is all-inclusive, so it's all-inclusive on selected sailings, which is most of our sailings, on all the itineraries. And again, like the other cruise lines, it's everything. It's spirits, cocktails, bottled water, and your speciality coffees. We do normally different promotions throughout the year, because not everybody wants the drinks package. Some people want onboard credit, or they want Wi-Fi, or upgrades maybe from ocean views to balconies. But currently we have all-inclusive. So if anyone is interested in getting the drinks and all-inclusive, we have it on our sailings until the 5th of March.
And Alan, the drinks package, what is Fred Olsen's drinks package? What does it cost?
Fred Olsen have a drinks package of €70 per day, per person per day. But what I would say about the drinks package is that we get a lot of people who get onto us and say, I'm not a big drinker, I don't drink, whatever. But I think the important thing is to take into consideration is that it does cover minerals, it does cover specialty coffees, it does cover water, and they can be very quickly added up. So everything in
water can cost as much as
absolutely, and so can a mineral as well. So and specialty coffees as well. So it is important to kind of like just not take the attitude that I don't drink, or I'm a very a light drinker, so I'll only have a glass of wine with my meal. you know, you have to take that into consideration as well, is that the coffees and the waters and the minerals do add up as well.
Right.
So €17 a day is what Fred Olsen are charging at
17, and Jennifer's is
Ours is in dollars, so it's
$40.
if it's outside of a promotion, it would be $65 per person per day, dollars. So I guess that's
and I think yours is 26, is it, Rebecca?
dollars.
Yeah.
We were the cheapest until Alan pointed it out 2 years ago that we were no longer the cheapest.
There was a moment at one of the forums when Rebecca found that Fred Olsen's was cheaper. Tell me, drinks packages and other cruise lines. Alan, and we have a question here from the back, but drinks packages, apart from the Fred Olsen, your own product, what do the Norwegians and princesses and people like that, are they more or less around the same level?
Yeah, they're all very, very similarly priced. There's nothing, you know, you're talking dollars really in between the two, you know, very, very small percentage. You know, it would be too long and boring to go through them all, but they're all very similarly priced.
A question here from the back.
Just, is the wheel accessory for people with wheel accessories on these ships?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, accessible staterooms, was that the question?
Was it about accessible cabins?
Accessible cabins.
Accessible cabins, is it?
Is that it?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we absolutely have accessible cabins in the ship. Obviously, they've got wider door frames. They've got bathrooms that are there for wheelchair use. So we're absolutely, yes, completely and utterly. And obviously, we've got lifts everywhere as well. So very easy, like all the cruise lines. I think we all cater for accessible staterooms quite extensively.
I think it's essential because
absolutely,
the age group you're dealing with, you know, traditionally the age would be older people and retired Americans, and you know, so accessibility on cruise ships is better than it would be in the world as a whole.
I would think so.
Than in most places.
One thing I would just add is, you know, a lot of cruise ships now, you know, you have cruise ships from 200 people all the way up to 5,000 people. The size of ship which you were looking at for yourself, sir, is my recommendation, whichever cruise line you choose, whether it's ultra luxury, mainstream, or wherever it is, you need to be booking those cabins virtually as soon as they go on sale.
Yeah.
They sell very, very quickly, the smaller ships.
Because a lot of us trade in the global market.
Yeah.
So it's not just people from Ireland or the UK or from Europe, it's North America. So early booking is recommended, and I think most cruise lines at this moment in time are probably on sale up to probably April 20 at the moment, some maybe even further.
Right. Michael and Amanda, bring you both in on this expedition cruising. Is it growing? Is there more? I see more ships being placed down in the Galapagos and places like that too.
I just go back to, you know, what I said before about people wanting experiences, and the whole demand of people having an experience on a holiday is growing. And you know, we touched before a little bit about the Galapagos, and we're building a brand new ship for the Galapagos which will come into service in April of 19, and I think that's exactly what it is. And you know, we see through television this day and age, whether it's about Blue Planet or anything else, what that captured to people's thoughts, from the environment to everything else with it. And the Galapagos, I must say, the demand for both SilverSea and Celebrity has been quite incredible for that destination.
Yeah, I've also seen amazing growth in Southern Ireland. I'm finding that soft adventure is of interest to people. It's the fact that you can go to these little places. If you look on the world map, I always say to people, and you see those tiny little Pacific islands with no names, we go to those places. When you go on expedition as well with SilverSea, it's not where you go, but it's also what you learn. So we have expedition leaders. You get off in small groups in zodiacs, and you go to these places that you've only ever dreamed of. So there's some really different, very, very, very different, anything from the Russian Far East down to the sub-Antarctica of New Zealand to Galapagos would be a big one. For me, at the moment, with the Irish market, I'm finding Antarctica and Galapagos would be the ones that are selling really well.
And how much does Antarctica cost?
Yeah, it's a steep one. It probably, with SilverSea, with everything, with your flights, you'd be looking about €12,000.
€12,000. Right. And a question from the fifth row here. Yeah.
Could you just explain to the audience the medical facilities on board, because we know it's like we haven't experience on it.
Medical facilities on board.
Medical facilities, yeah. I have difficulty hearing the feedback.
I'm not sure if you have any experience from the Royal perspective. We would have sort of doctors on board and assistants. I know we can take an X-ray on board. I know we have, defibrillators. I know we can put a plaster cast on and various things. So unless it's a serious medical emergency, we can treat most anything that would come.
As you say, Jane, Jenny ships. If you take one of the biggest ships in the world, it's more like a small village.
Yeah.
And the facilities which they have, and now all cruise lines. Any new ship that's being built has to have airlift facilities on board, so helicopter airlift in the event of an emergency. But my recommendation for every single traveller is do not travel without travel insurance, because that is paramount to everything, and that then covers you, especially if you are landing in North America, because we know how much insurance or what the cost of medical is, but the facilities of every single cruise line are second to none. The facilities, one of the reasons for that is on a cruise ship of 5,000 people, there's probably 2,500 crew. That is their home for 6 months as well. So we also want to make sure that all of our crew, should that be from a tooth filling or anything else, we're there to look after our crew as well.
So don't get stuck for the cost of a helicopter.
Just with the insurance, like as Michael said, because it can be quite expensive, guys, and that's one thing to remember. Because if you have an incident where you can go down and see a doctor, if you're calling a doctor out of hours, it's similar to calling a doctor out of hours here. So you're going to have that cost. If you're going to end up overnighting in the medical centre, it's similar to costs what can be here. So you should really have travel insurance. I remember a lady, and she was having some heart palpitations, and if you say, I think I'm having a heart attack, they're going to do every single procedure on board that they can check out your floor to make sure that you're not having a heart attack, or if you are having one, what are the options. So the costs involved in that can be quite high. So absolutely, please make sure that you have travel insurance, that you're covered.
Question here from...
sorry.
Question here.
No.
Have you a question? I remember...
Have we answered that gentleman's question well enough? Yeah.
And I know I was actually, I was on Harmony of the Seas about 18 months ago. I was on a 5-night sailing. I was on a personal holiday, and we just left Barcelona about 40 minutes, and the captain came on to say there was a medical emergency, but we couldn't go back to the port because the ship is quite large. And it took us about half an hour more maybe to stop the ship, but they sent out a helicopter. Helicopter landed and they brought somebody. I'd never seen it before, so it was quite amazing to see. So the facilities are there. If it is a real medical emergency, we can fly a helicopter out. We've got landing pads on the ships.
I also think that is, if you have a specific concern before you travel, is that the travel agent will be able to decide which medical facility is suitable, or which ship has the proper medical facilities for you, because as Michael is saying, is that these ships are some of them are like large city or small cities, so they would have medical facilities for the crew, but some of the smaller ships may not necessarily have as elaborate medical facilities as the others,
Some of Jennifer's ships have capacity for 5,400 passengers, and as Michael says, there's 2,000 crew. It's their home. It's actually, it is somewhere the size of New Ross, floating around in the middle of the Caribbean. I remember somebody, I'm not sure how serious they were, costed out the cost of putting their great granny or granny in a nursing home versus putting them on a long stay cruise around Africa. And some of the nursing home charges would be cheaper than putting her on a cruise. And his argument was that the medical facilities on the cruise would be much better than they would be in an average nursing home. These guys, again, think of the demographic of cruising, the traditional old demographic. I know everyone in here says cruisers are getting younger, but some of the people who get on the ships in Miami really they need medical facilities before the cruise ship has even sailed, and they do have the demographic of cruising is fitted out very, very well for medical. I think that's is that if you're happy with the answer to the question, and if we have any more questions. Yes, we have one here from the third row, fourth row.
Up to now, if we're cruising, you'd fly to Copenhagen, Barcelona, or Rome. So if Dublin has been a home port, What kind of savings is there for us if we're leaving from Dublin?
Very interesting question, because Alan made the point we're too far north to actually do a Mediterranean itinerary. Michael, what are the itineraries that Celebrity are bringing in, for instance?
Well, first of all, to your question, is the first initial saving is you're not paying for a flight ticket. So you are, if it's a cruise out of Barcelona, I guess an air ticket from Dublin to Barcelona is probably sitting at, depending on which airline you fly with, naturally probably 150 euros. So on two people you're probably paying 300 euros saving. Naturally, the itineraries which are offered out of, we've chose to offer from Dublin are northbound itineraries. So we are going to the Norwegian fjords and we're also going up to Iceland as well. We've chose those itineraries simply because we're further up the hemisphere, and also they are early season sailings. And if we were to sail from Dublin south, we would have quite a number of sea days getting into the Mediterranean. And if you just visualize that journey, you could also visualize the journey going north as well. So really your saving is the air ticket cost of where it would be. So maybe you could upgrade a little bit higher, and it's actually quite surprising when you look at the cost of a Caribbean cruise. The cost of a Caribbean cruise in terms of the initial cost of it can be quite low. It's when you add the cost of an air ticket on, that's what pushes quite often the cost up quite high. So, but again, travel agents will give you that expert knowledge of what the best thing to sell is.
Do you want to come in there, Alan? How much is saved by cruising, and what are the itineraries you're seeing in cruising direct from Ireland?
Well, I think Michael has actually touched on everything there, really, because I think if you were to take a like-for-like cruise out of Dublin and one out of Southampton, or Rosyth or Newcastle up to the Norwegian fjords, they're more or less identical in price. So the main saving really is the airfare and maybe the hotel accommodation, the transfers, but they can be quite substantial. So there is quite a bit of savings to be had. I think, as Michael just calculated, a very quick calculation, 150 euro for the flights. You probably have an overnight accommodation at maybe another 100 euro, and depending on which airport you fly into, or which port you're going out of, you probably got another 50 euro on transfers, thereabouts. So that would be kind of a very easy calculation on that, or a very quick calculation on that. So cruises really out of Ireland, you are still paying like-for-like prices than out of any other destination.
I'll be calling for more questions. The last question. Michael, I promised you'd get a Celebrity Edge. We'll get you to talk about Celebrity Edge. It looks really cool from the videos and the mock-ups. What's going to happen?
Okay,
it's a new ship launching. Is it May it's launching?
Yeah, well, I guess, as I said before, if the general industry is building more and more new cruise ships. We've not built any ships for now. The last ship we built was 7 years ago. So our moment of our new baby being born is in December. The ticket price of this cruise ship, if you want to buy one, is roughly $1 billion. So it's, and within there, we haven't done all the reveals, so you're not going to get me to do all the reveals. I'm not. We're keeping.
Just one. Come on.
There's no reveals. One thing I would say about the ship, and obviously as each month goes on, we'll be doing more and more of the reveals. What I can reveal today. So if there's any press in the room, we will be doing a reveal at the end of February. I'm not going to tell you what it's about, but stay close to the trade and the travel agents.
The cool thing is the deck that moves up and down, isn't that right?
Yes, what we've done is we have, in a number of ports of call, whether it's in the Caribbean or in the fjords or wherever it is, certain cruise ships do something called a tender operation, where the ship doesn't actually dock into the port. We dock in the harbour or just outside, and we run our tender boats back and forth from the ship. So one of the challenges has always been is making that a smooth process all the way through. So what we have designed in the very first cruise line to design it is a platform which will move from deck 1 all the way up to deck 5, all the way up to deck 15. In the evening, deck 15 will be called Dinner on the Edge, and this will be a brand new dining restaurant, never been created before, where people can do outside dining, and that sounds very nice when you're in the Caribbean in the winter, and that will be where it is. During the day, the deck will be positioned to deck 5, and that will become a bistro for coffees, teas, etc. But on the days where we have the tender operation, we will take the platform down to deck 1, and the process of getting on and off the ship will be like us stepping from this step down to there. So much easier, a lot smoother, and everything for all of our guests. So the whole operation is truly incredible, and you'll see the designs of that ship in from there. So really it's taking the design to another level, from restaurants, bars, experiences, going into something else. So that's something new, and I'm sure we'll, in about 10 years' time, we'll be on probably on every large cruise ship.
Question from the back row there. Sorry to keep you waiting. Yeah. Oh, we had a question, did we? We haven't.
No.
Oh, all good. Any last questions? Thank you very much for being a great audience. Thank you to... Oh, we have? Have we a question? We have.
For solo travel.
Solo travel.
Yeah, for cruising.
The person that wants to travel alone. I think everybody will have something to say on this. Amanda, do you want to come in?
Yes, we start at a 0 supplement for single travellers. So again, if you speak to your travel agent, they'll help you. But anything from 0 to 10% to 25%, and then on the very, very popular cruises, the price goes maybe up to 75% supplement.
Rebecca, do you want to come in?
No, I was like, please don't come to me.
Michael.
Don't ask me. No, but it is, and we had a question earlier on, and people came to us, and it is something that we are going to listen to. At the moment, it can range from 80 to 100%. So and I think that probably goes for all of us, any of the mainstream cruise lines. So it is something that we're looking at, and something that we're going to be talk about in the future.
Yeah. I've seen Norwegian and some of the other lines have brought in smaller cabins, haven't they? For the solo traveller.
Some of our newer ships we have listened to, because obviously, like all the cruise lines, we do listen to, we listen to our customers. Certainly on the newer ships, we have single occupancy staterooms as well, but a bit like the accessible staterooms, they fill out very, very quickly. So on the Oasis class and the Quantum class, we do have single occupancy, but as they're being refurbished as well, we are adding them onto the ships as well. But again, if you need them, you should be in contact, very, very early out, so we can get them.
Indentured granny, of course, comes into play here. A lot of families bring the indentured granny to look after the children. Alan, have you seen any developments in solo?
As you were saying, the Norwegian cruise lines have probably the first cruise line to come in with the smaller cabins, the studio type cabins as they call it. But there is plans for, as Jennifer was saying, is that they're coming. I think you'll see them all in the new builds now. You'll start seeing access for solo travellers from now on. But the other thing at the moment is probably if you do want to get solo travel at no supplements, generally if you're going shoulder season, there's generally bargains to be had for solo travellers.
Right. Best time to book?
Always book early. That's for sure, yeah.
And does it come in a sort of a Caribbean wave and a Mediterranean wave, or do they all sort of merge into each other now?
They're merging into one another. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
It is.
We're on sale now for 19. Most of the cruise companies are. We have a promotion promise though at the moment, so if you book now for 19, and if a promotion comes out that you feel suits you better, we allow people to change once. Okay. So we've listened to, we don't want you to feel like you haven't got the best deal you've got, so we've given customers the choice of doing that, which just helps.
Thank you very much. All these people are at the show, so you can ask discreet questions at the stall if anyone is a little bit afraid of holding a microphone. Thank you very much, great audience. Thank you for the 5 knowledgeable people that did such a great job this afternoon, for your valuable time and everything. Thank you.